Let's look at some drugs or molecules that inhibit the electron transport chain oxidative phosphorylation. Now we've seen all the steps in oxidative phosphorylation, right? Now there are some molecules or there are some drugs that can interact with those complexes and inhibit the electron transport chain. And you agree with me, if any of those complexes are inhibited, you agree with me that ATP will not be synthesized, is it not? If, just take for example, if complex 1 is inhibited, NADH, remember NADH binds to complex 1, right? Electron is lost and you know what happens next. If there is something happening there, that complex 1 cannot perform its function. ATP cannot be synthesized from there. Same thing to complex 2 and the rest. So now let's look at complex 1. We said complex 1 is called what? NADH CoQ oxidoreductase, right? Now, if this substance here, this molecule, rotenone, what functional group is on here? Ketone, right? Once you hear on, you should know it's ketone functional group. If it binds, it will interact with complex 1 and complex 1 cannot perform its function again. Complex 3. What is happening in complex 3? Remember, now don't look at the diagram, just visualize it. That NADH will bind to complex 1, right? Send the electron to where? Coenzyme Q. FADH binds to what? Complex 2, send the electron to what? Coenzyme Q. Coenzyme Q now transports the electron to where? Complex 3. Then complex 3 sends the electron to where? Cytochrome C. Then cytochrome C sends this to where? Complex 4. Complex 4 now binds it to what? Oxygen, right? Splits oxygen. Then the next thing is the proton gradient. Now the proton now passes through the ATP synthase, causes it to spin and drives the phosphorylation of ADP to what? ATP. Now, if this complex 3 here, is that complex 3? Complex 3 is called what? Cytochrome C what? Reductase, right? If antimycin binds to it, then that molecule there is inhibited, that complex will be affected. Complex 4, cyanide and carbon monoxide can inhibit this, can inhibit complex 4. Cyanide is very dangerous, you know. ATP synthase, oligomycin can, this one is a drug, can interact with the ATP synthase and inhibit it. So if ATP synthase is inhibited, what do you think? ATP cannot be synthesized because this is the enzyme that drives that synthesis. Then proton gradient, you know, hydrogen ion is proton. So proton gradient, that proton gradient can be affected by uncoupling agents like 2,4-dinitrophenol. So if you have something like this, so this is 2,4-1,2,3,4. This is 2,4-dinitrophenol. Now, this 2,4-dinitrophenol is an uncoupling agent and it can affect the proton gradient. You know, it is actually the proton gradient that causes that synthesis of ATP. Because if the proton was not high on this side and low on this side and they are rushing to the ATP synthase, it will not cause it to spin for ATP to be synthesized. So these are some molecules that can inhibit these complexes. I have the feeling that you see this thing in exam. So please know it.
Hey, why have you not subscribed?